Hello everyone and welcome to the snack bar. My name is Jerry and with me I have
Hi, I'm Jed.
and today is a really big and really important
Yeah,
episode.
I hope you're all seated down for the next 3 hours.
It wouldn't feel like 3 hours, I hope.
Yeah, we're gonna try and make this episode longer than the movie itself.
um yeah, but before that, is there any film you want to talk about first?
I'm not sure if there is. Well, okay, I'll talk a little bit about Fighting with My Family, which I
Oh
really,
yeah.
yeah, I really think people should go and watch that, but it's been kind of swamped by Endgame because it came out just before
Mhm.
Endgame. It's the first biopic from WWE Studios, and is about a wrestler, a WWE diva named Paige, who is played in the movie by Florence Pugh. And what is really interesting about the movie is that it is at its heart like a heartwarming British comedy drama underdog sports movie.
Mhm.
So even if you have no context of wrestling, if you're not a wrestling fan, it's a really good movie. It's written and directed by Stephen Merchant, who co-created the original UK version of The Office.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it was a really smart idea to get a director with that kind of a comedic background to make a movie about like a very eccentric family. The parents are played by Nick Frost and Lena Headey.
Uh I have seen that film and I quite like it. Although I feel like kind of reminded me of Monsters University, what it really got down to, which I thought was quite funny. But I did enjoy the film. I yeah, it's really well acted, and there's a very there's sort of like a bittersweet truth that it tries to tell,
hmm
which I really appreciate. And I still have no idea what wrestling is. So I don't know whether that's what I'm not that interested in wrestling before, and I'm still not that interested in wrestling. But I agree with you. It's a really great film for people who aren't interested in the sports because at the end of the day, it's really just about dreams and achieving them or not achieving them, and the process and how hard you have to work for that dream. Which I thought they did really well. You saw the struggles, the emotional ones, the physical ones, so that's really great.
Yeah, and I think that like we all think of wrestling as fake, as very packaged and very inauthentic. So this is a movie that of course has to uphold the WWE brand, but I still think it came off as a very authentic movie that there were really like they were able to convey emotions that felt real, and a lot of that is up to the writing and directing, and a lot of that is up to the acting. And I think Florence Pugh is like a huge star in the making. Like watch out for her. She's gonna be huge because this is a really like great showcase kind of role because it has a whole arc. There's a whole like character development thing. There is that underdog sports movie charm to it. I really liked Vince Vaughn in this as well. Like he plays the kind of tough coach character, but secretly he's rooting for the protagonist. And I mean, of course, that character is not real. Like he's probably an amalgamation of like two or three or four different people, but that's just the way like based on a true story kind of things work. What do you think of the cameo of Dwayne Johnson?
I don't care for it. But I just want to say another thing that I really like about this film, because you know how I feel about Dwayne Johnson and his ego. But what I really like about this film is how they portray women supporting other women, and how there are different types of women, and that doesn't make the other one weaker than the other, which I really love.
Yeah, I love that too because like she goes into a training program called NXT, and that is kind of like a developmental program for the wrestlers who are trying to get into the WWE. And during that, like it's very arduous, it's very physically taxing, and they portray it as like a military kind of boot camp. And there's an element of like there has to be a kind of camaraderie, but because she is so different from the other women who are in that program, she kind of takes on the role of an outcast, and she isolates herself while kind of projecting that other people are isolating her. And I thought that was really interesting because it's
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that she is being bullied, but she feels that way, and
Mhm.
it's not really her fault of feeling that way because she is an outsider. She is from the UK, but the way she looks at it makes the situation worse than it actually is. And I thought that was really interesting because it's so
Yeah.
typical to have a sports movie where like the other team members are just scoffing at the underdog or like they're sabotaging somebody, they're tying their shoelaces together. And this movie is a lot more nuanced in that.
Yeah. And it's also like how she looks down on girls who are girly and stuff and who are models or just the typical good-looking women
Right, because she's
and
like
how
goth and everything.
yeah, so I really like how it shows that, different types of women are good. Neither one is better than the other, which I really appreciate. And that was like a very cool take on feminism, I feel, for this for a film like this, because I didn't expect it to go that way. I expected it to go the way that you described it. And it's really, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, and I really appreciate that we see this kind of female commodity. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
I can't say that word.
I totally do. Yeah, female camaraderie, and I think
Thank you.
yeah, like the thing about people bonding under stressful situations, that is something which is inherently compelling. I think that there are a lot of movies which make very good use of that. Like the bonds that are formed under that kind of stress are very strong, and that's why you have a lot of like military movies or sports movies which are about teamwork and about people being friends because it's like a trial by fire kind of thing. And this movie had that in a very unexpected way. And I think like
Mhm.
there is an element of it has to uphold the brand of the WWE. I really encourage people to go and watch the recent Last Week Tonight piece that John Oliver did about the WWE and basically about how shitty Vince McMahon, the CEO of the WWE, who portrays himself as a villain character within the storylines, how horrible he is and how much like death and injury and horrible things have happened to the wrestlers because they're not protected the way other workers, other athletes would be protected.
Mhm.
And like they are not given an off season, they are sort of expected to perform for the company, or so horrible things happen to their bodies. And it leads to a lot of them dying very early and very young. And I thought that was a really eye-opening piece because I don't follow wrestling that closely. So yeah, I think like it's always important to remember that there is a dark side, but I do like the optimism of this movie. I do like the hopefulness of this movie, and it's a good-hearted movie. I think like it could have been made very cynically, and of course there's a corporate impetus for it, but ultimately you watch it and it is feel good, and it does not feel good in like a sugary hollow way. So that made it very unique for me. I don't think I've really seen a movie quite like this.
I agree.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, but yeah, I think the pacing though sometimes it was a little bit off.
Mm-mm.
Like the climax felt shorter than it probably is, or it felt very short, and the build up and setup to everything was a little bit too long, I feel. But whatever. I enjoyed it overall. Wasn't a lot of people when I saw it,
Yeah, I
so
don't think a lot of people are gonna watch it, and we also like got it quite a bit later than the US did, I
yeah.
think.
It
I
came out the same time as How to Train Your Dragon. That's all I
Wow,
remember.
yeah, that's right. That's like 2, 3 months back already, and I don't think it should have opened this close to Endgame because now everyone's gonna watch Endgame and no one's gonna watch this, and I think this is a very good like family movie to watch if you have like not super young kids, but if you have like 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, like it's a good family movie because it is about family and it's about like the weirdness of family, but how within families that are weird, there still is a lot of love. It's just that the love is manifested in different ways, and I like that very
Yep.
much.
Anything else you've watched this week?
I'll talk a little bit about Phantom.
After Your Opera,
Yeah,
yes.
I deeply love this big stupid show. I love this so much. Yeah, I think Phantom is probably one of the things I'm the biggest fans of in the list of things I'm a fan of. I was a fan of Phantom even before I was a fan of Batman, of Star Wars. So it's kind of
Oh
funny. Yeah,
wow.
it's kind of funny to think like how much of an impact it has had on me and how much it has kind of shaped my tastes. Like I do love, I think, first off, the spectacle of it. Like it's very bombastic, it's very over the top, but it's very enjoyable in that way. Like you feel like you've gotten your money's worth because the other tickets are expensive, but so much is happening There's so much visual splendor. There are special effects. The sets and the costumes are very, very extravagant. Maria Bjornson is a genius. And even though this is like a touring production where they've scaled things down a little bit, it is not super noticeable. Like if you know what changes to look out for, you can see the changes, but I don't think you're being shortchanged. Unlike the current US touring version, which removes the staircase from Masquerade. How can anyone do such a horrible thing? I'm just very offended
I'll be
about that.
honest, I've only seen Phantom once, and it's the 25th anniversary version, so I don't remember much from it.
The 25th
But
anniversary version is one of the best. But like, I'm so happy that that was the cast that they memorialized. Like, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Hadley Fraser as Raoul, but Ramin and Ciara have amazing chemistry. So if that's the
yep,
only version of Phantom that you've watched, it is a really, really good benchmark. And what I do like about the 25th anniversary version is that while functionally quite a bit of it is changed because it is held in the Royal Albert Hall, it is still acted out. It is not done as a concert version like the anniversaries of Les Miserables War, where they're just like kind of
yeah,
standing there in costume, but it wasn't staged. So,
mhm,
but a lot of the set pieces are kind of like replaced with projections and replaced with screen images and stuff like that. So the grandeur of it is yeah, it comes through a lot more when you're watching it on stage. Also, they could not drop the chandelier in the 25th
yeah,
anniversary. So a little bit of that is compromised, but I still think the 25th anniversary is a really, really good representation of the show, and I'm very happy that it exists in that film version. So anytime I want to revisit that and watch that, I can. Yeah. So the one in Singapore now, this is the fourth time the show has come to Singapore. So it came
mhm.
in 1995, 2007, 2013, and now. And yeah, I like. Are there any kind of questions you want to ask about this production?
Is how is the Phantom compared to Ramin? I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah, Ramin
Like
Karimlu.
I think that that's my biggest issue with a lot of when you've seen one version, it's really hard for you to not compare the version to
Yeah,
other
yeah, you get
versions.
married to that. And I think that's especially true of a show like Phantom because everyone has their ideal Phantom, their ideal Christine, and their ideal Raoul, and then you're measuring it against that. Okay, so we're getting Jonathan Roxmuth, who is a South African musical theater actor. I really liked him as the Phantom. I think he's very commanding, he's very sexy, and the bits where the Phantom is very tender and kind of like soft, he does that very well. He has like an excellent final there, but vocally he is not the strongest Phantom. Like I did
Mhm.
not really like his music of the night, which was a little bit disappointing. But he does make up for it with
Okay.
the acting. Yeah,
Okay.
getting to interview him during the press call, I think he really does understand the character, and his story is really interesting because he played Raoul, and then he like kind of graduated to the Phantom. He played Raoul 6 times a week and the Phantom twice a week, and then he was promoted to the Phantom indefinitely at 24. So when he was
Okay.
24, he was playing the Phantom, and now he's 32. So he said like
Oh, okay.
he said the intervening like 8 years, he has changed a lot, and he realizes now why people say you have to be a certain age to play the Phantom. Like his life experiences have given him more depth and more to pull on. And I thought that was really interesting
Mhm.
because like he when he played the Phantom in 2012, like I saw a clip of that from the Manila press call. It's like this guy is 24. That's nuts. So yeah, it would be interesting for someone who has seen him play the Phantom that long ago and see him play it now and kind of compare how he's matured into it because it's a very, very demanding role. Like even though the
Yeah.
Phantom is not on stage for the entire duration of the play, it's very difficult to sing. It's very emotionally taxing, and also the whole point of the one thing that I'm always wary of is Phantom is not a subtle show at all. It's very easy
No.
for it to be extremely silly if you are not a good actor.
Yeah.
Like I have seen an actor who,
Like Gerard Butler. Okay.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, like Jared Butler, but also I think like Jared Butler, he was not over the top. He was just out of his depth. Like he couldn't handle the singing. There are actors who the way they emote is like I saw this guy where when he was sad, he just like beat his chest like that. And, it was like, and I was like, okay. And then there's another guy who just threw himself all over the floor during final lair, just like lunging all over the floor, and it was really, really funny. So yeah, I mean, Ramin is a very good example of like a Phantom who kind of understands the brokenness and the depth of the Phantom. Like one thing Ramen Karmlu does that I've never seen anyone else do that I love a lot is Christine says, I gave my love blindly. And then like you see him mouth the word blindly. Like it's dropping into his head. He's realizing what that means. And that is really, really heartbreaking, really sad. So
Mhm.
yeah, I like that. I mean, I like the idea that the Phantom. Oh, I could spend hours on this, but I will not. I like the idea that the Phantom, he's trying to present a certain image of himself. That's why he wears the mask, because it's sort of like he wants to present himself as a very cultured gentleman, as someone who is like he wants to present himself as the ideal man, but he has no baseline for that. He has no history of human interaction. So he's a genius, but he doesn't know how people really work. And the only way that he can express himself is through music. So then
Yeah.
as the show goes on and as kind of like Raul and Christine fall more in love with each other, and he gets more and more jealous. Like you see that exterior crumble, you see that facade break, and then by the end of Final Lair, you're seeing like a very raw, very pitiful, sad man. So the job of the actor of the Phantom is to kind of get you on his side, but also like make you feel, man, this is not the right way to go about things. So that's a very
Yep.
tricky thing to do.
Yeah, I just like the music, to be honest, from the Phantom of the
Yeah,
Opera.
the
Like
music is
I
so good. I know a lot of people say
like
Andrew Lloyd Webber is a giant hack, but I love the
yeah.
score of Phantom.
Mhm. But I think the character studies, I don't know, Raul is too boring. Christine I don't care for, and Phantom he's a murderer. So like at the end of the day I just don't care for all three of them, but I really like the music. So
Yeah, I
yeah, I think
totally.
honestly it's just the actors that make it likable for me.
It
I
is,
know
yeah.
you really like this. I'm
No, no,
sorry.
it,
I
it, it
don't
makes
mean
sense, yeah,
to
because
just
like
crap.
at the same time, I think that's very, very true, and none of what you've said is wrong, but it is the actors. So I think this Raul is great, Matt Lisi. Like, I love what Jonathan Roxworth, the actor for the Phantom, said. He said this Raul has balls, and lots of
Yeah.
Rauls don't have balls. And Matt Lisi said something that I've never heard before. He said that Raul in the novel has a background as a naval officer. So that's he has like some military training, and that's why like when he jumps in and he's an action hero, like that's where that comes from. And that's also
Yeah.
referenced in his costume during Masquerade. He wears like an admiral's uniform. So if he's
Mhm.
integrating that into his performance, that's interesting, because the whole problem that people have with Raul is that he's very entitled. He's a rich boy, everything
Mhm.
comes to him very easily. But during that time, the Navy was by meritocracy. So if he's gotten somewhere in the Navy, that isn't because he was rich or from a rich family. So that's really interesting. That's something like my brother pointed out historically. So I think the what the job of the Raoul actor is to sort of sell you that it's hard. It's hard for him to convince Christine to not go off with this murderer. Like he has a
Yeah.
difficult job. So a lot of Raouls make it seem like, they're just not doing anything. Like they're kind of like cardboard cutouts in the background. So I like that this Raoul, he's very charismatic. The actor, weirdly enough, gives me like a Tom Holland vibe. Yeah, and I really like this Christine. She is a fighter. Like Megan Picerno's Christine is not the wide-eyed, naive ingenue at all. Like she is vulnerable. There are moments when she's scared, but the whole kind of vibe that you get from her is that she's not gonna take any of it lying down, and I really like that. I think that that's a conscious choice of the actor. Is the way that this role is always played is deer in the headlights. Like Christine
Yeah.
just keeps getting caught in bad situations and she can't do anything about it. And fundamentally, like structurally, that's unchanged. But you sort of see the journey. You see her decide at some point, I'm not gonna let the men around me define me anymore. And that's at the end when she sees how crazy everything has gotten, and she's like, no, I'm gonna put a stop to it. And I like that. I think that it takes a certain kind of acting choice to make that believable. So yeah, it's different. Like this Raul, this Christine, this Phantom. I mean, especially this Raul is different from what I'm used to. But I thought they,
Yeah.
in their own ways, they all did a very good job. Also this Carlotta is hilarious. Beverly Chia,
Sorry, this what?
Carlotta, the diva, the one who gets replaced by Christine. Like
Okay.
for the past 3 years, these are things that keep happening.
Okay. I don't remember anything of
Have you
that at
seen the
all,
Gerard
but
Butler movie?
yes,
Yeah.
but as a kid, and I don't remember liking it, so
Right, yeah, that's Joel
I
Schumacher.
don't remember anything from it.
I mean, as with anything
Uh,
in life, I just want Guillermo del Toro to remake it. And just everything. Just let Guillermo del Toro remake
yeah.
everything.
Uh, I before we go on to Avengers, I just want to say I started watching and I finished honestly this anime called Mob Psycho 100, and it's amazing, and I think that you should watch it. Jet, it's on Netflix, only season 1, and I also found out that My Hero Academia is on Netflix, so you should watch that too, Jet. I think you're the only one in the world that
Yeah,
hasn't seen My Hero
I'm the
Academia.
only one in the world who's not seen My Hero Academia. What is Mob Hero Mob Psycho
Oh,
about?
Mob Psycho. It's about a kid who is psychic, and he hangs out, or he is an apprentice to this con artist who also claims that he's psychic but he's not. So it's just about him trying to understand his humanity despite having these powers. And it's really, really good. I really like how they try to present superpowers as just another thing that you're talented at. But that doesn't make you any more human than others.
Right,
Which
yeah.
is a really, which the way they explore it, I really love it. And the action scenes are crazy in this. It's made by, okay, so My Hero Academia and Mob Psycho, they're both from the same studio, animation studio.
Mm-hmm.
So both of them are bonkers crazy when it comes to action.
Okay.
And the voice acting is so good. Watch it in Japanese. I've not seen My Hero Academia in English, but apparently it's really good too. But I've only seen the Japanese dub, so I can only say for the Japanese dub, it's really, really good. It's both on Netflix, so you should watch it. Okay, let's go on to Avengers.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna run out of time, but thank you for letting me talk about Phantom. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. I don't want to, because it's something I know you love, so
Yeah,
it's really good to
it
let it
is
all
something I
out.
love. Thank you. Yeah.
Alright, so Avengers Endgame, what is that all about, Jet?
Yeah, Avengers Endgame is the sequel to Avengers Infinity War. So we know that Avengers Infinity War ended with all our heroes losing. Thanos acquired all six Infinity Stones, he snapped his fingers, and half of all life in the universe was decimated. So
I think we should just stop it there,
Avengers,
right?
well, I've gotten very good at doing the
Okay.
summary of this without spoilers. So
Okay,
yeah,
because I'm really scared because they don't really say anything about what happens after that
yeah.
in the
So
synopsis, I think.
after that, the heroes who are alive have to regroup, and
Mm.
so they have different opinions and different ideas on what to do now. And some of them want to move on. Some of them want to find a way to fix and undo what has been done, but no one really agrees on how to do that. So in comes Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, who was presumed dead. He was presumed to be among the decimated, but really he's just been lost in the quantum realm for that amount of time. But now he's back, and he maybe has an idea. So the Avengers have their work cut out for them. They know that the road ahead will be rough and there will be a cost to it, but they have to complete their mission because of what they owe to all the lives that have been lost.
Wow, one down. Okay, well done.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I choked. Um, just as I did in this movie. I think we shouldn't take that long in non-spoilers because there's not much to say because everything else is a spoiler.
I do
Uh,
like the challenge though. I do like the challenge of talking about this movie about spoilers. Like as hard as it is, I think I've gotten pretty good at it. Like I wrote a 900 word review that does not have a spoiler in it. And at the end of the day, I looked back and it's like, wow, not bad, you know. And I rarely do that. Like I rarely like feel that proud of myself.
I I would say that the pacing is really great in this film.
Yeah, it's a three
A
hour
lot of
movie.
people say, yeah, people say that the first 2 hours is quite draggy, but I disagree. I think it's a really fun things happen in the first 2 hours,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
also really sad things happen in the first 2 hours. You can see I'm not as good as you, Chad, but I think that this is the shortest 3 hours I've ever had in a cinema because I didn't see a lot of the Rings in the cinema and didn't see Blade Runner in the cinema, so I don't know what a 3 hour movie really feels like in the cinema when you can't go for toilet
Yeah, where you
breaks.
can't press pause and all of that, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, and I think that one of the things I really admire about this movie, as I did with Infinity War, is that it's not afraid to just let one character sit down and talk to another character. And I
Mhm.
think that's very important. And a lot of this also is because of the amount of investment we have in these characters. So we are willing to hear what they have to say to each other. And I think the conventional wisdom has it that anytime something non-actiony is happening, that's boring. But I'm glad that the MCU consciously tries to change that because yeah, there is a lot of action, but the action that there is in this movie I did not find as exciting or did not move me as much as the scenes in which characters are talking to each other. And
Yeah.
especially because this is a movie about grief, this is a movie about trauma, and we kind of see how the character progression of especially the original six Avengers who are all left behind, of Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Hulk, who else is there? Thor and Hawkeye. Yeah, how all six of them each deal with the grief. And the way they do tracks, it makes sense given their pasts. So I said that this movie does things that a fifth movie in the franchise cannot do. A 10th movie in the franchise cannot do. A 15th movie in the franchise maybe can do it. A 20th movie in the franchise can do it. And this is the 22nd movie in the MCU and they can do it. So they really, really like earned the permission or earned the like I think they earned the trust of the fans to say, go along with us. Go along with us and see where it goes. So that's part of the thrill of it. Part of the thrill is moments in the movie when you don't know what's gonna happen next because they're really good with setting up this is what has to be done for the plan to work, and then things go wrong. Then you're not sure how they're going to improvise or recover from a mistake or from something unplanned that happened in the course of executing the mission. And I think that's a really, really clever way to handle a very plot dense story like this, a story with so many moving parts.
Mhm. I all right. I think we should go into spoilers soon. But what are some of the movies that you think people should watch before they see Avengers Endgame? Obviously, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I mean,
All of
obviously, I
them,
don't think you have to. I think you don't need to see Captain Marvel.
all of them. No, honestly, like okay, functionally, you don't have to see all of them, right? I think functionally, you need to see what you saw that leads into Endgame, which is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2, and Thor Ragnarok, I guess, to set it
and
up.
and also Avengers. Sorry, not Avengers. I think
Civil War.
Captain America First Avenger for the emotional
I
beats.
think honestly, like a big part of this movie is kind of reminding audiences of why they fell in love with each of the characters. So there's stuff in Tony's arc that stretches back to Iron Man 1, and there's stuff in Captain
Mhm.
America's arc that stretches back to Captain America the First Avenger. So
Yeah.
I think like it's this is the thing, right? Like functionally you don't have to see all of them, but the movie presumes you have, and the movie rewards you if you have, and that's to me one of the triumphs of the movie. And honestly, I don't want every movie to be like this. I don't want every movie to be predicated upon my familiarity with a 21 movie long franchise, because I'm not
Yeah.
going to give that kind of investment in everything. But because it presumes that, it gives it the chance to do things that are like outright bald-faced emotionally manipulative, but there's a catharsis in that because you've done that after earning the trust and after the characters have gone on that long of a thing. So when something that might be perceived as emotionally manipulative happens, you're framing it in the context of this is how long the journey has been. And I think that's what Endgame does very well. It leverages the investment that people have in these stories. So like when people say, I cry, it's not just because something sad happened, but because something sad happened that built upon 10 years, that built upon,
10 years. Yeah.
that built upon like loving a character and seeing a character through multiple installments. And and that's the interesting thing because there are a few MCU movies that have nothing to do with the Infinity Stones, that have nothing to do with Thanos, but But Endgame does this. It wraps its arms around the whole MCU and says, I love you all. You're all
Ugh.
important. And each of these movies,
Except you, Incredible Hulk.
yeah, that each of these movies contributed something to where we are now, even if there are movies that are less liked, less loved than others. So I mean, even Thor: The Dark World or Iron Man 3, like okay, I love those two movies, but a lot of people don't. But those movies are still important in the grand scheme of things, and I like that very much. I think that's what this movie did very well. Is it gave the entire MCU a big hug, and to appreciate that, you need to have seen all of them. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the
I
question is not so much how
I
many do I need to have seen, but you do, it's ideal that you've seen all of them.
yeah, but I think stuff like Incredible Hulk, even Iron Man 2, like they aren't necessary
No, yeah.
to.
Like I don't even
But
think you need to have seen Black Panther for this to work.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I would recommend this film obviously. You would recommend this film obviously. I think it's such a miracle and I'm so honored to be in this time where this film exists and I was there to see it build up.
Yeah, and
So,
I mean
yeah.
like I mean before we get into spoilers, one of the things that's frustrating to me is that uh a lot of people love this movie, but now is when you're gonna see all the hot takes. Now is when you're gonna
Yeah.
see everyone say, I hated this, I hated that. And for sure, there are, I'm not saying that it's wrong to dislike this movie or it's wrong to point out its flaws, but now is when people are doing that to be cool. It's like
Mhm.
all of you like this, but I know why it's bad, so I'm better than you. There's going to be more and
Yeah.
more of that coming up. So I'm already like preparing myself for that, and it's kind of a bummer because this is one of those movies where I honestly said I can't imagine anyone walking out of this going meh. Like it's
And
it's not
uh
one of those movies. It's a movie that is built to provoke a very strong reaction.
like honestly, if I have a feeling those people are the ones that never really enjoyed the MCU in the first place. So I don't understand why they watch this.
Yeah, like
That's just how I feel about it.
and
But
I mean like at the risk of sounding
even
sorry, go ahead.
and like even if you dislike this film, surely you should have so much respect for what it did. Like it's 10 years worth of build up
Yeah.
to this and it does feel like it's earned every single thing it did. I don't know, like I think it's kind of insane how you can make a film like this, how a film
Yeah.
like this can exist. Because it's never been done before, and this is the first time they're doing it. So you don't have to like the film. I'm not saying that you have to, but at the very least, I don't. You should. I mean, I know it's wrong to tell people what they should and shouldn't feel, but how they should and shouldn't feel. But it's it's mind blowing, man. You can't just do this. So many studios have tried to do it, and they've all failed. They've all failed before they even flew off. So how I don't understand how this film exists, and I think people with hot takes they can't do it either. So we don't have to bother with them because this film is going to make billions and billions of dollars. Disney is still going to be laughing their way to the bank, and whatever criticism you have towards this film, it doesn't matter to them because this film is critic proof, and you can't do anything you say just makes you look petty. And I'm sorry, but that's the truth. You can criticize this film because this film isn't perfect. I think that they use a plot device that is a major cop out, but at the end of the day, it's really about the characters. It's about the journey that we've been through with them and how they conclude certain characters or how they set up certain characters for the future. And I think like that's the most exciting part of it. All right, so let's go to spoilers. So I'm going to read the plot from Wiki and then we will just stop. You tell me when to stop. I'll stop whenever I feel like I have something to say about it because this film is so huge.
Okay, that's a good idea. So you sort of take it from the top. All right, yeah.
Yeah. So, 3 weeks after Thanos used the Infinity Stone to disintegrate half of life across the universe, Carol Danvers rescues Nebula and Tony Stark from deep space.
Right.
They return to Earth to join the remaining Avengers, and they later find injured Thanos,
Okay,
intending to take the stones to
pause.
reverse his actions.
All right, so
Okay.
that's how the plot summary begins, but that's not how the movie begins. The movie
No.
begins with a cold open of Clint Barton and his family like having a picnic. And
Yeah.
yeah, I really like that because the thing to me that was so interesting is like how much of a hill the Hawkeye farmhouse thing was for Joss Whedon to die on. Like he was gonna protect that no matter what. Like Disney really wanted that to be cut, but he was holding on to the
Mhm.
Hawkeye farmhouse thing, and that pays off now. You know, and
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I really loved Age of Ultron is because that whole farmhouse sequence is not a thing you would find in a movie of that scale. And I like that the MCU has that, and that's why people connect to it emotionally because of the hints at the external lives of these characters. Because there's more to these
Yeah.
characters than the superheroing that they do. So when Clint
Mhm.
loses his family, you've already seen the family. You saw his child being born in Age of Ultron, you know, and like he gave the child the middle name after Pietro after Quicksilver and all of that. So you have all of that built in. So you kind of feel that emptiness and that loss, and it's like it's an indication of how emotionally manipulative the rest of the show is gonna be, but it's done so well. Like
Yeah.
when there's just handheld camera
Like
running.
anime.
Sorry.
Like anime. That's how they do it. They're so emotionally manipulative. I would know.
like there's
Okay, sorry. Go
No,
on.
the one bit that I thought was really nice is like, I mean, how they kind of give you the hint of chaos. Like after he doesn't know what happens after everyone disappears, then he runs to the table, and the camera is handheld, running after him. And I like that
Yeah.
very much. I like that. And then from there, you sort of see this is what destroys him. This turns him into like a
Yeah.
complete cold-hearted monster for the next 5 years. And you
Yeah.
understand why. And that to me was such an amazing like cold open for the movie. Then we get logos. Then we get Tony and Nebula on the spaceship.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's a fantastic cold
Ah, so
open.
good. Yeah.
Has any Marvel film done that where it's just they just started without the Marvel Studios logo?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like one of the Guardians movies might have.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's one or two. I
Yeah,
think there's
but
one or two. Yeah.
it's I think it's just such an awesome way to set the tone for the film.
Yeah, like the first thing you see is you know is him interacting with his family.
Alright, so they later find an injured Thanos, intending to take the stones to reverse his actions, but he already destroyed them to prevent further use, prompting an enraged Thor to kill Thanos. Amazing moment!
Yeah,
I clapped.
nobody saw this coming, right? This is so great.
I I clapped when he said I went for the hit. I'm like, aha, he did.
Yeah,
I'm glad. I'm so glad that they killed him off because again that sets the tone for what the hell is going on in this film. All
yeah.
our theories are gone.
Yes, there's
It's
no
it's awesome.
Ant-Man going up his butt at all.
Yeah.
And
Who knew?
yeah,
Who knew Disney?
I
Oh, I have to make sure that I remember that. Yeah, continue.
yeah, I mean what was really interesting about this is the idea that, you know, what has everyone been speculating about this movie? Who kills Thanos and how? So killing Thanos happens really early in the movie, and nobody gets any satisfaction from it. It doesn't do
Mhm.
anything to solve anybody's problems or ease anyone's guilt, or like killing Thanos doesn't help. And I thought that was amazing because it's too late. And I like that very much. I like the idea that, you know, killing Thanos doesn't bring everyone back. And that's something
Yeah,
people
that's
say, but you see it. You see how that's true.
I didn't even think of that. That's super awesome.
That is, right? Yeah.
Uh,
And it's like
yeah.
it's an unpredictable thing that happens really early on and sort of throws the audience off, and you don't know what to expect next. And then they do the big
I
I
love
love it
it.
so much. Very, very clever.
It's so good.
And then
Yeah.
they do the big old time jump. Did you know about the time
Although
jump?
no, I didn't. I was quite I was laughing to myself a little bit because I'm like, haha, oh look, it's that Star Wars moment that everyone hates. And I was really hoping that no one hates this. And I think people liked it. They liked that their expectations was subverted in this one, so that's cool.
Yeah, and
And if
sorry, go ahead.
sorry, go on.
Y-
I was just trying to go on with the
Yeah,
plot.
I think like the difference being that Infinity War was Thanos' movie. So this doesn't need to also be Thanos' movie. And Thanos shows up later anyway. So I think like they
Yeah.
are the they it's very interesting because it's like they dealt with the Thanos of Infinity War, but then for the rest of the movie, they're dealing with the Thanos of Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's the same character, but you're sort of he's at a different point in his life.
Yeah.
And I like that very much because that means you kind of still keep him around for the movie, but the killing of Thanos is a resolution. It's a resolution with no satisfaction because the only way that people are good that there's any satisfaction in it is if they could fix it, if they could reverse what Thanos has done. So that's sort
Yeah.
of what primes you for it, and I like that. I mean, of course, we know Thanos is still going to show up after this, but how? Yeah,
I didn't.
because like the
I
all the
didn't know that.
toys had him holding this big, the weapon that he has, the two-sided
Oh,
like a
okay.
flat thing that he has. Yeah,
I avoided everything Avengers, so
well done.
I
Yeah, well
didn't,
done you.
yeah, I didn't expect him to come back. And if you were in a cinema with Chinese subtitles, you'll be spoiled by this because it says five
Yeah,
years
yeah, 5 years
later.
right? Yeah, for 5 years
It's
later. Yeah,
so
it is.
annoying
Yeah,
because they faded in five, and you're like, oh, what is that? But then you see the Mandarin subtitles, and it says Union
yeah,
or whatever, Ho or whatever.
yeah. That's right.
So it sucks.
Yeah,
It's
it's the same
terrible.
thing that happened when like they kind of spoiled, Money Penny's name
Oh.
in Skyfall or that Benedict Cumberbatch's Khan because like the subtitles show you just a little bit further than that. Anyway, okay, so on with the show.
Uh,
Five
five
5 years
years,
later,
5 years later, Scott Lang escapes the quantum realm. I just want to add a mouse,
a
or
rat.
sorry, a rat, or you could say a mouse, is the reason why everyone managed to survive. A mouse, Disney, a
Yeah,
mouse.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, and meets
Ken Jeong.
Romanoff, yeah, Ken Jeong, and and Steve Rogers at the Avengers compound. But before that, he also found out that his daughter is alive, and I'm quite sad that we don't see the little girl anymore,
No,
and I
yeah,
don't think
no,
she'll
no
be
more Abby
around.
Ryder Fortson. Okay, but like grown up Cassie was the first time I cried during this movie
Oh.
because like that's when I started to get the indication what this movie is about. This movie is about parents and children throughout the entire thing. Like we start off with Hawkeye losing his family, and then we see uh, Scott Lang reunite with Cassie. It's about parents and children, and then later on
Mhm.
with Howard and Tony, later on with Tony and Morgan, later on with with Frigga and Thor. Like it's about parents and children, and parents and children means what we leave behind, legacy.
Yeah,
So I really
that's
like that.
awesome.
Yeah, I like that. That's what the movie is about consistently. Like that theme is all throughout the movie.
Okay, so Lang theorizes that quantum realm allows time travel due to his having only passed 5 years as opposed to years. Okay, the three are
No, no,
stuck to
he
help
spent
him.
like what was 5 years felt to him like 5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, the three are stuck to help them retrieve the stones from the past so they can revert Thanos' action in the present. But he rejects them out of fear of losing his daughter
Okay,
Morgan.
pause.
Eventually,
Yeah.
okay.
How did you react with the Tony Stark as a kid reveal?
I just went, oh shit, now what are they gonna do?
That was really interesting, right? Because I like the idea that he retired, that he sort of like built a house in the woods, and that's the end of it for him, and he was happy with that. And I
Mhm.
also really liked the scene of them going to ask for his help. He was kind of rude to them and mean to them, but he also still wanted to see them. He still missed them, and he said, "You can stay for lunch if you don't talk shop, if you don't talk about this plan." Table set for six, and I like
Yeah.
that very much. I like that Tony sort of because like a very emotional scene earlier on is when Tony comes back from space and he is like in such a bad state and he's so angry at Cat and he's so defeated and so sad. So you kind of saw
Yeah.
him rebuild himself over the 5 years. Like he's
And I
settled down with Pepper, he had a kid, and he separated himself from the superhero life.
mhm. I also think the moment they show his daughter, it's the same thing I felt when we saw Hawkeye had a family in Age of Ultron, which is, oh, this can't be good
Right? Yeah.
because that's
Now
stake
there are
right
stakes,
there.
right? Yeah. Look at the stakes running around. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very cute. They had her like play with the rescue helmet, and then he says, "It's okay. Your mom never wears anything that I buy her anyway." And yeah,
Yeah.
Tony is an amazing dad. He's a really good dad.
Yeah.
Like all of his interactions with the little girl are totally like endearing, and but they still feel like Tony. And I like that very much. I like that. That's a sign of how he has grown because when you first meet him in Iron Man 1, he's too selfish to look after a child. He's not responsible
Mhm.
enough to be a parent. He's not responsible enough to look after himself. But now, like the amount of time that has passed and what he has gone through with Pepper, like it has prepared him for fatherhood. And so that becomes his
Yeah.
priority. And I like what he said very much. He said, that we can try to save what we've lost, but I have to save what I found as well. And that's a priority for
Yeah.
me. So I like that those were his rules before he went off with the rest of them and before he figured out how to make the quantum travel work.
Yeah. Um. Where was I? Oh yes. Okay. Eventually, Stark relents after reflecting upon the disintegrated Peter Parker and works with Banner, who has merged his intelligence with the Hulk's body to stabilize travel in the quantum realm. I just want to say the
Pause.
taco
This
joke
was
was
so
really
great.
cute.
This was so great. Yeah, I mean, like, I deeply, deeply love Mark Ruffalo's version of the Hulk. I find him a very relatable character because he's kind of insecure and he's not sure of himself, but he has a great power within him that he doesn't really know how to deal with it. And I like that in this movie he figured it out and
Yeah.
and yeah, and so we got Smart Hulk, and it was really cute. It was really funny. It creates a lot more work because then you have another completely CGI character that you have to do besides Thanos, besides the raccoon. And when everyone else is in the suit, they're CG as well. But yeah, did you like the integration of him into the environment?
I think it makes Hulk like a more interesting character
Yeah,
because he's always like ragey and stuff, but now you see both, like you see Mark Ruffalo in Hulk's body and he's able to control it, but he doesn't have the rage anymore, so he's not as powerful, I guess,
yeah.
or
He
as uncontrollable.
he he becomes like Beast from X-Men, and Beast
Yeah.
is my favorite member of the X-Men because it's that combination of brains and brawn. The idea that I love the image of him, like he's humongous but he's fiddling with these tiny little switches and he has to make sure he presses the buttons in the right order, and I thought that was that was a good visual way to sum up who the Hulk is. Like he is a
Mhm.
big strong guy but he has to be careful. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to wreck anything more that he's already wrecked, and I like what he said when he was saying I was treating Hulk as a disease, and this is a
Yeah.
different way to go about it, and how shocked everyone is when they see him, and also the photo op with the kids, like it was really really cute. I like that.
Yeah. The dab was unnecessary.
That
Uh,
can be said of any dab in any context.
yeah, and I really liked the taco joke
Oh yeah,
with
that's so
you
cute.
you see Ant-Man trying to get it and then Hulk just gives him another one because Rocket ruined
I like
everything.
the idea
By the way,
of.
I just want to
Sorry, go
say,
ahead. Yeah.
I speaking of Rocket, I just feel like they really underutilized Rocket as a character because he has a fear of losing people. At least that's why I interpreted from Guardians 2.
Yeah.
And because he always felt like people are gonna leave him,
Yeah.
and so he just lost his entire family, and he seems the most well
Adjusted.
well
Yeah.
functioning, yeah, well adjusted one. And I think that just I really wish they did more with Rocket than what they gave him, which is just the brains and nothing else.
Yeah, I understand, but I
Yeah.
also do like the scene where he sits down on the steps of the spaceship with Nebula and they kind of like hold each other's hand, and
Mhm.
and that was all we needed really. Yeah,
Yeah.
in terms of like that's a quiet moment that they share
I
with each
just
other.
I just feel like it it's I Rocket just wasn't well utilized in this, and and Nebula are the only Guardians left, and Nebula did a good job.
Oh yeah,
They gave her really good character
yeah, the
development, but
Nebula plot
Rocket,
is
I
really
wish,
good in this movie. Yeah, I think
yeah, I wish they gave Rocket more stuff to do,
Rocket's
or at
thing is he
least some
follows
sort
he
of,
follows Thor around and that's it.
yeah,
Yeah, so back to Hulk for a little bit. Like I do like that he's a bit of the team dad. Like seeing him bring everyone food was like, okay, now he's sort of taking on the role of he's the team dad. And I thought it was a really funny like new role for Hulk.
okay. Romanov, hang on, Romanov, the Romanov
Romanoff!
recruits Clint Barton, now a ruthless vigilante, following the disintegration of his family, while Banner and Rocket find a drunken reclusive Thor in Norway.
Pause.
Ah,
Yeah, okay,
okay.
let's
So
do the Hawkeye bit first.
Okay.
Yeah, very cool. Hiroyuki Sanada is now in both the X-Men universe and the MCU, so good for him. He-
No idea who he
He's the
is.
guy that got killed.
As in, who is he in? What do you say, DC?
No, X-Men. He was in X-Men in
X Men.
Wolverine, the one in
Oh,
Japan, right?
yeah, the one in
Yeah,
Japan, the
he was the
forgettable one.
dad. Yeah, he was the dad of the love interest.
Okay.
Yeah, Hiroki Sanada, very very good actor, very talented actor. Last Samurai, he's also in Westworld recently, and he's in a bunch of things. He's really good. I It was a very like over the top archetypical like mob movie scene, and I like that. I like that. The Russos are huge film buffs, so they when they quote from movies, I find that quite satisfying because they don't do it with the obviousness or with like the nerdiness of like a Tarantino, but you can still tell, yeah, you're quoting from something. There's something that inspired you here. Okay, so that's
Mhm.
that's it for the Barton scene. All right, Thor.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the fun one. The fun with the Fortnite and the kids.
Yeah. Ah,
It's really
Fortnite.
nice to see like the other half of the ship surviving. It's really nice to see Valkyrie again and his rock friend.
Yeah,
Uh,
Sweater Valkyrie is great. Like Sweater Hulk and Sweater Valkyrie,
yeah.
like the characters who don't wear sweaters wearing sweaters is I love it so much.
And I'm really happy that they made use of Chris Hemsworth very good comedic skills. Some people disliked it because they felt like Saw didn't really do much in this, especially after he stole the show in Infinity
But
War.
that's
But
that's why he's not
I
doing much in this because Infinity War is his story, and then this one is
yeah,
Cap and
and
yeah,
Iron
Man in
Man's.
the Iron Man suit. Yeah, I forgot Iron
Yeah,
Man's
so
name.
I was kind of worried because I'm not quote unquote fat or anything. So like I was quite uncomfortable with all the fat jokes or fat. I felt like it felt a little bit like fat
I
shaming.
am kind of
But
fat.
then when
Yeah,
yeah, but I realized that when I got out, I read forums. There were a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's cool. Now I can cosplay as Thor," which is cool
yeah,
because that's what they said in Deadpool, right? In Deadpool 2, it's like we're all the fat superheroes.
right.
So that's kind of
So
cool.
okay, my like honestly, yeah, I wasn't super comfortable with it, not because it's fat shaming, but because I felt like it is true. This is what happens to people when they get depressed, when there's a trauma, like they shut themselves off from the world, they don't treat their bodies well, and I didn't find that I think that it was kind of cheap to play that for laughs because like it is very sad. Like what happened to Thor is very sad. So
Yeah,
I feel like
he lost so many things within a few
yeah, so
days.
so more than it being fat shaming, I felt that it it downplayed Thor's personal sacrifice, and it went from him crying to Rocket in the first movie, saying how much more do I have to lose, to now it's funny because he's fat. So that
Yeah.
to me was like I didn't super love that. It didn't ruin the movie for me at
Mhm.
all. And I understand the gag of, the character who's normally the most physically impressive having just let himself go. But to me that was not funny. To me that was sad. It's like what
Yeah.
happens to someone for that to happen to their body? Something bad. Something really, really bad. So I didn't like that so much, but it didn't ruin the movie for me.
Yeah.
Did you get where I'm
I
coming from? Yeah.
yeah, because I think I feel the same way too, but more of the fat shaming side
Mm-hmm.
because it's I I did find it sort of funny, but at the same time I was also very uncomfortable
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with why they are making fun of someone's clearly being super
Yeah,
depressed.
that this is a
Like,
result of yeah.
he lost his entire country that he was supposed to be responsible for, and then he lost his brother, and then the world ended
Yeah.
or almost ended
Shortly
because
before that
he
he lost
he
his
did the
dad.
wrong move.
Yeah, and then
And yeah,
he
and he did the wrong move,
yeah.
which is he didn't cut off Thanos' head, and he probably regretted that so
So that
much.
is trillions of
So
lives
it
on him. Yeah.
yeah, and it's not on him because he wasn't the one that snapped, but like he probably felt responsible
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that. And I think that's also a testament to him of character development on his part.
Very much. Yeah, like the whole thing
Yeah.
about Thor is that he's proud, he's arrogant and he needs to be brought back to Earth. But then the events of Infinity War, like it really, really destroyed him. He's completely humiliated by the defeat and by how he let everyone down, and that's why we're seeing him in this state. So yeah,
Yep.
that to me is much more sad than it is funny. It's funny because
Uh,
he looks that's so different from how he normally looks. That's the initial gag. I get it. But beyond that, I was not very comfortable with that. I felt like, it
Yeah.
is a legitimate tragedy what happened to him.
Hmm.
Okay, move
Okay,
on. Yeah,
so
sorry.
Banner Rogers is okay. Banner Rogers, Lang, and Stark travel to. Oh, hang on. Did I miss? Well, they skipped the entire like sequence of them figuring out stuff. Okay, so anyway, they had to go time travel. They figured out that they can get the stones by going back in
Yeah,
time.
they have to jump into three
And
movies.
Banner
They have to jump
Rogers
into Avengers, they have to jump into Dark World, and they have to jump into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Yeah.
Guardians. I have another thing to say about that later.
Okay.
Banner, Rogers, Lang, and Stark travel to New York City in 2012. Banner visits the Sanctum Sanctorium and convinces the Ancient One to give him the Time Stone. Rogers
Surprise, Tilda
overcomes
Swinton!
undercover Hydra agents. Yeah.
Oh, the
Rogers
undercover Hydra agent
overcomes
bit was really, really good.
amazing.
Holy crap. Seeing
Like,
like
I think that got the biggest laugh.
seeing Sitwell and Rumlow and all of those assholes from Winter Soldier and having them like reference the Winter Soldier elevator joke and also reference the Cap is a Hydra agent plot line from the Nick Spencer comics all in
Yeah.
one sequence was like virtuoso sort of writing and the way like Chris Evans played it as well because Cap is funny and I think like the movies sometimes forget that but in this movie like he gets to be kind of funny he gets to be a bit playful and very quick thinking on his part.
Mhm. And I really love that you're expecting the elevator fight scene again from Winter Soldier,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
they solved it so easily.
yeah.
And
Oh, so good.
yeah, I think that whoever thought of that scene, good job, man. Like
Yeah, yeah. What
that
a
is
good
so
idea.
good. It it's really weird how now the people from Shield saying that Captain America is a Hydra agent in that timeline. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean the rules of time travel in this movie don't think about it. Because like I had a friend who kept on messaging me like what about Loki? And I was like nothing, nothing about Loki. Yeah.
That's why I find like time traveling such a cop out plot device because eventually you give up.
Yes,
So
yeah.
it's not really a plot hole anymore. You just don't think about it.
But at the same time, I like okay. Once they said the words time and travel, I rolled my eyes a bit. But they, like, okay. The thing for me is like, is it hard? Is it hard enough for everyone? It was. Things went wrong, so I thought they justified it because things didn't go how they planned and they had to improvise, and so it wasn't as simple as they thought it was gonna be. And that's what I liked about it. Like, there is still a degree of
Hmm.
convenience to it, but there is still a lot of jumping through hoops, and I appreciated that.
Hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so Rogers overcomes undercover Hydra agents and his 2012 self to retrieve the Mind Stone. So this was fun.
Yeah, the cat fight.
I I love this
So good.
fight.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
they kept the mask on the other guy so it could be a stunt double.
Yeah, and him being really
Oh
annoyed
yeah, I can do this
with
all day. He's like,
Steve when he was like, I could do this
yeah,
all day.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I know, I know.
And then like he wins by saying Bucky is alive.
Yeah.
It was so cute. Yeah,
And that is America's ass,
that's
which is
America's
awesome.
ass. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
like
That's
a
some good meme right
yeah
there.
some like primo
Uh
meme material. Yeah, and also I like that this foreshadows that the ending of this movie involves there being two Captain Americas in the timeline.
mhm. While Lang and Stark fail to retrieve the space stone after Loki escapes it with it, I really like the gag with Hulk going down the
So
stairs and he
many
just hates the stairs.
stairs!
Yeah, and there is actually a freaking payoff to
Oh,
it.
good.
I love it.
Yes, the Hulk stairs thing. And that's another thing I can relate to about Hulk. I do that when I'm faced with stairs as well. Yeah, and like just the look on Loki's face when the Tesseract is right there by his feet. And then his face is going, oh.
So
Funny.
I'm
Very funny.
assuming that this starts the
Disney
Loki TV
Plus, yeah, Disney
series.
Plus takes place in
Yeah.
this pocket dimension. Yeah.
Rogers and Stark used the last of their Pym particles to travel to SHIELD headquarters in 1970, stealing an earlier version of Space Stone and vials of Pym particles from Hank Pym so they can return to the
Okay,
present.
pause. Yeah,
Yeah,
th-
this is an
this
important
is very
scene.
important. This is also where we get the Stanley cameo, which fine,
Mhm.
I got the impression that they just needed to move past it very fast. So they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no time for anything. So this scene is amazing. This is so good. This is, I think, my favorite part of the movie is him and his dad, the
Yeah.
John Slattery, because like a lot of the issues that Tony Stark has come from his upbringing. And I also very much like that we got to see Jarvis, we got to see James Darcy from the Agent Carter series, and this is what I mean when I'm talking about characters just talking, but it gets so much across, it gets so much done. And I think like it's this movie is fan service, but at the same time fan service is such a pejorative way to put it. I don't think it's fair to say it's just fan service, because it's fan service with a reason. And I think that's what this scene was, because this scene, as much as there's, hey, I recognize this thing and that person, there is a plot reason for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Peggy on one side of the glass
Yes.
and Steve on the other side of the glass.
That is my favorite part of that scene.
Yeah. Oh
It's
my gosh.
I love them as a couple so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was really happy to see Peggy again. I love how every time there's Captain America, they try to squeeze Peggy in.
Yeah, and the thing, I mean, another thing I love about Peggy's art is that she overcomes a humongous personal loss and goes on to be a very powerful, efficient person who is very, very good at her
Yeah.
job. That doesn't stop her.
Mhm.
But that's always something which is unresolved. So I like that. I like the combination of there is something that's missing because they didn't get the last dance, she didn't get to see each other again, but that doesn't stop her progressing in her career or in her life, but we see how it
Yeah.
affects her. And that one moment where she's coming and talking to someone, like she's the director of that of Shield in that in 1970, but there's still the photo of Skinny Steve on the table, and I
Mhm.
love that it's Skinny Steve because that's how she'll always remember him. He's always going to be Skinny Steve to
Yeah.
her.
Ah, what a beautiful love story.
Yeah, it's so good, so good.
I love them so
And we
much.
also get our
Okay,
second
so
Community cameo, Yvette Nicole Brown, the
oh, is
yeah,
it?
the lady who finds him suspicious. Yeah,
Oh. Oh right,
yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
okay.
She's on Community. So that's Ken Jeong and Yvette Nicole Brown in this movie.
I really like the Tony Stark and Howard Stark scene when they were talking about how he's about to get Tony soon, as in
Oh yeah,
his
his
wife
wife's
is
about to give
pregnant.
birth. Yeah. Oh, and then there's like,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a boy because I don't want him to turn out like me. And then Tony says, "What's so
Yeah.
bad about that?" Oh, so sad, so sad.
Okay, so Rocket and Thor travel to Asgard in 2013 to retrieve the Reality Stone from Jane Foster, and Thor obtains his former hammer, meow meow meow
Mew
meow.
Mew, Mjolnir.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Mew. Okay, I that was when I realized I don't remember anything from
From
Dark
Dark
World.
World, I was sobbing. No,
Yeah.
because the Frigga's death in Dark World really got to me because that felt permanent. The deaths in the MCU don't feel permanent. That felt permanent. I was not expecting to see Rene Russo in the movie again. And it's just like the mother son scene in Endgame was so beautiful. Like I like how they contrasted that with the Tony and Howard dynamic, and I really
Mhm.
love that. Like it's so sad. Like him knowing the impermanence of it and her accepting it and her saying this is a gift. Like she knows she's gonna die, and she knows that. But that's one more moment he can get, and that is mirrored in the Tony and Howard meeting when he says all the money in the world cannot buy you a second more of time. And that's what this whole movie is about:
Yeah.
buying time, buying time, buying time. That's all these characters are doing. And that to me gives the time travel an emotional resonance beyond it being just the plot point that it is. The buying time
Yeah.
aspect
Yeah.
of it is something that means so much to these characters. They're just clinging on to whatever shred of closure they can have. And these characters get closure in this movie. And I like that very much because it feels earned.
Yeah. By the way, before we go on, I just want to say, like, you really felt how sad it was that half of the population was gone.
Yeah,
Like
they
everyone. Okay, I really didn't like how Marvel tried to promote their first gay character as just a throwaway character, but I really did like the meeting that they had and
Yeah,
them trying to
yeah.
get over
I like
grief.
that. I like that also because Cap was just a normal guy in that meeting. He didn't attend that meeting as Captain America. He attended that meeting as Steve Rogers, a dude. And I like that very much. It also reminded me of the VA scene from Winter Soldier, when Sam is talking to Falcon is talking to like soldiers with PTSD,
Yeah.
and they are sort of like the community, the role they play in the community and the civic mindedness of these heroes. We don't get a lot of that in the MCU because there's not a lot of time for that. So when we do get that, it's very valuable because these people are about helping the community and not just about like punching aliens in the face. Yeah,
Mhm. Okay. Barton and Romanov travel. Why can't they just give us the hero name?
yeah,
Travel to Vormir in 2014 and learn from the Soul Stone's keeper, the Red Skull, that it can only be acquired by sacrificing someone they love. They fight over which of them should die before Romanov sacrifices herself.
pause.
So this,
Yeah,
okay, this
go.
this this makes me really. I okay. So she's dead. Like she's really dead.
Yep, she's really super dead.
So Gomorrah is really super dead too.
But time travel.
But okay, but they can't do that because if Black Widow is really dead and she dies the same way as Gamora does, what? So Gamora has to be dead. But I don't think she's
No,
dead,
at
right?
the end of the movie, we see 2014 Gamora.
But we she doesn't join them in the ship.
No, yeah, 24 definitely 14 Gamora is out there somewhere because there are two
And I
nebulas.
don't
One
count her
nebula
as
died.
Gamora.
Yeah,
It's it's so screwed up that 2014 Gamora would join them though, because that's not the same Gamora. You can't just replace a person like that.
yeah, and that's kind of what all the time things are like. Jumping ahead, that Captain America that we see at the end, that's not the same Captain America either. But he has had, yeah. So that's kind of that's one of the many can of worms that time travel opens, especially this iteration of it where each action creates a branching reality rather than it being overwriting the past. But anyway, this to me was a part of the movie that didn't really work. Like to me, it was unintentionally funny that Black Widow and Hawkeye are fighting over who gets to die. Like,
Mhm.
millennial lust for death is like, just let me throw myself off the cliff. I can't deal with the student loans. That was that
And
was what it was like.
and I'll be honest, like to me, the one that made the most sense to die was Black Widow,
Right? Yeah, yeah,
because Hawkeye had a family to live for. I mean,
yeah.
okay, that I shouldn't say that, but like as in he has 3 kids
Also,
and he's doing this for his kids, and it doesn't make sense that he wanna kill himself to bring back his family, because they really should have just let her die
yeah, and also like
without that
without having the
drama added
fight,
to
yeah,
it.
the fight off the cliff. Like, I mean, also objectively, she has done more horrible things in her life than Hawkeye has, so she has more to atone for, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I felt like okay, there's one opinion that I read that I agree with a little bit, which is the meaning of the Soul Stone sacrifice was reduced from lose the thing you love the most to kill someone here.
Yeah.
But okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I found that so weird too.
Right, yeah.
And okay,
Because
I'll be
that's
honest.
not the thing they love the most, each other. Like they love each other, but that's
Yeah,
not the thing they love the most.
and also I always felt like Hawkeye and Black Widow had a very good chemistry, but it almost felt romantic at the end, right? Well, is it just me?
Yeah, I think like
Like the whole sun thing,
it
it didn't feel like friendship at all.
I think like they teased it in Avengers, but then AOU confirmed that. And okay, people they do this with Black Widow a lot. Like with Steve. Like they ship tease Black Widow a lot. But I like that. I like that the MCU is not defined by the romantic relationships, at least for her. Like even the thing with Hulk didn't really happen. So I think that there is an element of the bond is very deep because they reminded you of Budapest again. So I didn't read it as romantic, but I read it as nodding towards how it could have been interpreted as romantic in the first Avengers movie. Long sentence.
All right. So on Morag in the same year, Nebula and Rhodes steal this Power Stone before Peter Quill can. I want to pause here and say that I love the moment when you zoom out and then you see what it's actually like in the beginning
Yeah,
of
because
Guardians.
he
Like that
only
is
has the music on his earphones.
Yep. Like that is my favorite opening, one of my favorite openings of any films ever. So to see it in a goofy way. I just love it so much. And I Guardians is my favorite Marvel film, so it's really nice to see that that musical scene as another in another perspective. But I dislike the disrespect that they showed towards Peter Quill in this movie. I don't know why. Like I always knew that he was an idiot,
Yeah.
but they make it sound like he's incompetent, which I don't really like.
Okay. Yeah, I think part of it is perhaps like they know everyone's angry at him for playing a part in Thanos not being properly defeated in Infinity War. So I think that's a kind of a way to address it. What I mean, yeah, I get it. Like there are a lot of jokes at his expense. Another thing that I do kind of like that I think was deliberate is that they were reverse engineering the romance with Gamora because that was a very
Yep.
important part of Infinity War. But there are a lot of people who feel that Gamora shouldn't have ended up with Quill, and they
Mhm.
address that.
Or
Sorry.
or rather they don't think that he's earned it yet.
Right, yeah, they don't think that he kind of like she's like settling, right? Because she's such a
Mhm.
badass and he's like this man child. So as many redeeming qualities as Quill has, like they are maybe not the best match. So I think that that's part of what the movie is doing in its own. I feel it is an affectionate way because I think that there still
It
is.
doesn't feel that affectionate from my part.
I think that there is an affection for the Guardians overall. And like I did very much like that. Of the three directors they singled out during the end credits, it was Joss Whedon, Jon Favreau, and James Gunn. So those were the three who
Mhm.
had like kind of made the biggest contribution to the MCU, I think. And I like that. Everyone thought that Guardians was not gonna work, and it ended up being such an important part of the MCU. Guardians was not in Joss Whedon's game plan, like when he was doing Ultron, and it's interesting to see how much of that ended up playing into where we are now. So yeah, I mean the jumping into the older movies thing only works if people are very familiar with the older movies, and really only works if people love the older movies. So I'm glad that they did get to do that.
I think that Guardians is probably one of the most prominent Marvel films you have to watch before this because it really is where they set up this Thanos and he's going to be the big bad of this entire movie.
Yeah, and the cosmic threat is Thanos, and the cosmic Marvel movies
Yeah.
are where you have to go to get that. And the cosmic Marvel movies are Guardians 1, Guardians 2. And then Ragnarok and Captain Marvel are kinda the cosmic Marvel movies, but it is the two Guardians movies, and I very much like what they did with Nebula, which we can lead on to from here because after they get the Power Stone, Rhodey makes it back, but Nebula doesn't, and
Yeah, and that was such a scary
it
moment, by the
was.
way.
It was a scary moment, and I love like what happened because there are two nebulas occupying the same time, and so her frequency kind of interfered in the frequency of the other nebula, of the 2014 nebula, and I thought that was such a great way for Gamora to be back in the movie. Was seeing 2014 Gamora and seeing a Gamora who had not yet turned against Thanos, so we were seeing like the events just before or at the beginning of
Guardians.
Guardians, right? But from the point of view of Nebula and Gamora, who had not met up with the
Hmm.
Guardians yet.
Okay, so and by the way, when she was I've no idea when she changed, to be honest. I guess at the end of Guardians 2 where she was willing to kill Thanos and but she still kind of didn't really like Gamora. But I guess over the course of Infinity War she started to have an affection for her. But I thought that was kind of odd that she was suddenly on the on the Avengers team
Right.
when I
Yeah.
felt like she never really had that turn. She just did it for herself. So it was weird to see her being in a team like that. And I think that I know a lot of people like her character in this, and I do like her character. I just find it odd how her character development jumped from like 0 to 100. So yeah, I but that's just a nitpick. All
Yeah.
right. So
I
Road
think
Tree.
that before we go on from that, I think that the change was in that scene with Gamora with the giant gun in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The All I Wanted Was a Sister scene.
Yeah,
And yeah.
but at the end she didn't join the Guardians. She decided to, "Oh, I'm just gonna kill Thanos," which and I swear, because I've only seen Guardians 2 once, but I swear she didn't like Gamora by the end of Guardians 2. She just made peace with her, but she never liked her back.
Right, and I think like that kind of changes in Infinity War because in Infinity War, Nebula has a chance to kill Thanos, and they're all like when they're all on Titan are almost killing. They're about to kill Thanos, and then that doesn't work. So I think the aftermath of that, like whatever happens in between that and now, like the aftermath of that is she and Tony had to stick together. And
Yeah,
then I think that is kind of what forms builds the idea in her that she should join with the Avengers. I don't think she's like formally part of the team or anything, but I did very much like the beginning of the movie, which we glossed over a little bit when it was her and Tony in the spaceship and they were like helping out, trying to prolong the amount of life support they had. They were playing that little game with the foil triangles and the gold made of the fingers, and I like that very much because yeah, it was very cute because we kind of saw Nebula soften a little bit, like when she puts the jacket over Tony, when she gives Tony the last rations, and that is not a Nebula who would do that. Nebula from the first Guardians movie wouldn't do that. So
yeah,
something happened after the defeat of Thanos, and I think that's what made the change in her. But I do agree with you that it is weird seeing Nebula as part of the team. And I remember when we were doing our review of Infinity War, I said that the only Guardians left are Nebula and Rocket, and you said that you didn't count Nebula as a Guardian. But I think that now we can. After this movie, we
yeah.
can. Yeah.
All right. So through this connection, oh, hang on. Rhodes returns to the present with the Power Stone without Nebula due to the latter's cybernetic implants interfacing with those of her 2014 self. Through this connection, the Thanos of that time captures present-day Nebula and sees her memories. He then secretly sends 2014 Nebula to the present. Yep. With all the Infinity Stones collected in the present, Banner uses them to restore those whom Thanos disintegrated. 2014 Nebula uses the time machine to transport Thanos and his ship to the present day, and he attacks the Avengers compound. Rogers, Thor, and Stark confront Thanos, and Rogers proves worthy to wield the
Okay,
Mjolnir.
pause. All right, so yeah, this is really really cool, right? Like finally seeing Captain America wield Mjolnir because that was what Joss Whedon intended in Avengers 2012, and there is concept art of that happening, but that didn't happen until now. Yeah,
How did your audience react to this?
um, my audience, like there was a lot of whooping and cheering, but
Oh, that's cool.
I think that as a Singaporean audience, we are predisposed to not really do a lot of that. But I think because it was a premiere night, people were very excited,
Yeah.
and I think
Oh,
like
mine were excited too.
yeah, it is. This is one of those like kind of moments that are purposely built as a cheer moment.
Mhm.
And I think like when I see things like that, I kind of a part of me like rolls my eyes and say, "You got me," because you know
Yeah.
that that's what they wanted to do, and it works. It works really well. And
But
yeah, go ahead.
I think this is fine because it's so deserving
Yeah, yeah.
of this character to be worthy. And I'm not sure, like, because I know in the beginning, sorry, when they showed the part in Age of Ultron when he couldn't really lift the hammer but it moved a little bit, I thought it was more like, I guess he's almost worthy enough. But then after this happened, I read a lot of theories that said that, oh, he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to shame
So
Thor.
it was like a face thing. It was he
Yeah,
didn't
a
want
fake
Thor to
out.
lose
But
face, right?
yeah, but no one really has confirmed that. So it is kind of nice if that's true. But yeah, I lost my mind. I would not lie because I love Captain America. He's my favorite Avenger. So to see him just wheeling on Thanos, like all the combinations he did with the sword and the thunder and the lightning and the, oh, it's so good. And I lost my freaking mind. And even before that, when Thanos came uh to blow up the entire Avengers compound, I'll be honest, it's kind of weird how they all survived
Right, yeah,
because some of them are just humans. But okay,
when
whatever.
they were
It's a
trapped
movie.
underneath and like Ant-Man was helping Hulk and Rocket to escape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Rocket being stuck underneath that that building, and just everyone almost drowning. I had like Spider-Man Homecoming flashbacks, and I did not like it at all. When
All
Spider-Man was
right, when
trapped
he was
underneath all that rubble.
under the
Oh,
building. It also reminded me
yeah.
of Baby Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 when he's
Yes,
about to
when
be
he almost
crushed.
got,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
Ugh, horrible.
so yeah, like I think that this movie does a very good job of making it equally Tony's and Cap's movie, but I feel like it is a little bit more Cap's movie than it is Tony's. And I think like the Mjolnir wielding is a very big part of that because he's the only mortal to have wielded Mjolnir. Of the three characters we have seen in the MCU who are able to, Vision is Vision and Thor is Thor, but Captain America is a guy. So I like the idea that even if he were not Super Soldier Serum Captain America, Skinny Steve would have been able to lift Mjolnir, and that's
But
sorry,
sorry, continue.
and that's an image that I would like to see. Would like to have seen.
I also think it is really cool though that like you said, they really balanced out this being Captain America and Iron Man's movie. But I also think that it is Iron Man's movie because you see his kid, you know what his life is like after the snap, and he has so much going on for him,
Right?
and
Yeah.
he's the one that also jumpstarts most of the plot because without him they wouldn't have been able to time travel. So I think it really that's why I find it so cool how they really made it about both of them.
Yeah.
And I think either one of them have done such a phenomenal job, as in the actors have done such a phenomenal job at their characters. And oh, like I can't get over that part. It's so cool.
Yeah. I
Like
think like
I
sorry. Go ahead.
when when the hammer moved, I was like, oh my god, here it is. It's gonna be him. It's gonna be him. And then it was Captain America, and I just freaked out. I wish I was there with your audience because my audience, they were good. Like they were quiet when they were supposed to be quiet, and they cheered at appropriate moments, and I could still hear the dialogue. And but oh man, like I do wish they were a little bit more rowdy though, cause like
Yeah. You want
this is
people
so
to whoop and scream
fun
at this,
movie.
right? Yeah. Oh, and like earlier on, sorry, this is a random place to interrupt with this, but when Iron Man calls Thor Big Lebowski, that doesn't work because Jeff Bridges, who played the Dude Lebowski, played Obadiah Stane in Iron Man 1.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh yeah, I forgot that he was part of the
that's a
MCU.
celebrity paradox, and it's just like, Stan Lee reading the Mallrats script. And there's a scene where Rhodey like lists off every single time travel movie, and there are bound to be a bunch of
Mhm.
Marvel actors in some of those, which I thought was kind of funny
Oh
that
yeah.
they were using. I like that. I like using pop culture shorthand to say it's not going to be like that, so it doesn't operate by Back to the Future rules. So I think when people were talking about plot holes, they still thought it was Back to the Future rules, even though there's a scene that explicitly says this is not Back to the Future rules. So yeah,
Mhm.
that there is a degree of like suspension of disbelief when you have to trust the movie's mechanics to sort of take you where it's going. And I think if you lay Endgame out end to end, like plot point to plot point to plot point, there are going to be inconsistencies. But I think the movie moves with enough finesse that you don't think too much about them in the moment, and that it still pulls it back to the emotions. And I do agree with what you said about it being both Cap and Thor's movie. I think like I still would nudge it a little bit more to the Cap side, but I think putting them both together and having them both go to 1970 together was such a great idea, and then having them like work together during the final fight with Thor. It was the Trinity, the original Trinity of the MCU. And there's one shot that I love very much. It's a shot where you kind of see the sky is completely cloudy and Thanos' Outrider army is all swarmed over the compound, and it's just the lone figure of Captain America like walking out to face
I
them. Yeah,
know. Oh my
a
god,
good
it's
man
so
goes to
good.
war. Yeah, and I like that very much because that's who he was to begin with. He was a good man going to war, and at the end he's a good man going to war again. Yeah, and I think like this is where we get into the big old fight. And the Wakanda battle in the first movie, like it was very spectacular, and there were a lot of cheer-worthy moments. But I told you this when we did our review of Infinity War. Once I sense a giant CGI on CGI battle coming, a bit of my mind turns
Mhm.
off. And
Mhm.
I have to admit that that's what happened here. But at the same time, I think that this was done the best way they could have done it, and they did try to anchor it with individual moments. Like whoever was
Yeah.
attacking Thanos at that moment, you could get a sense of where they were, what they were doing, how it was working or not working. So I thought this was done a bit better than the Wakanda fight.
Yeah, I agree with you because when I saw the CGI monster, I'm like, oh, so this is where all the Avengers are gonna come
Yeah,
in,
this is the
because it
everybody
doesn't make
versus
sense
everybody
that
scene, right? Yeah.
yeah, because it doesn't make sense that because I knew that they were coming back because the snap happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I was
Yeah, because like
wondering where
you saw the phone call from Hawkeye's wife from Velma from Scooby
yeah,
Doo.
and
Yeah.
I was thinking, so are all the Avengers gonna fight one guy? Then I saw the CG army. I'm like, okay, but I still don't think. Okay, now we have an army. I don't understand how a few Avengers are gonna fight them. But then, of course, one of the best moments happens in the film, and yeah, one of the best moments happens in the film, and I'm not reading this off. Okay, hang on. Now restored, Stephen Strange arrives with his fellow sorcerers, the other restored Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxies, and the armies of Asgard, Wakanda, and Ravagers. So that was an amazing moment when the flying guy, what's his name? The
Falcon
next Captain Marvel. Falcon.
on your
Okay,
left,
sorry.
right? Yeah,
On your
when he
left.
told
Like the
Thor.
crackle
Yes, the
happens,
crackle. Yeah.
and he says on your left.
Oh, I
And
like
I
that
was
so
like,
much.
oh, damn it, we here, brother.
Yeah,
Actually.
and when like Falcon like swoops across the screen so triumphantly, and yeah, I
And
like that so much.
no, and like just all the portals opening, and you see this army. And honestly, when the Wakanda people came in, I was like, oh my god, they just opened themselves up to this world, and they're going to another war.
Yeah.
But then, okay, then you saw the other factions and people fighting back, so that was really cool. It's so good. It's so good. And I didn't know this, but apparently this is the first time Captain America says Avengers Assemble.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think because he was about to say that at the end of Age of Ultron and they cut him off as a
Oh,
joke.
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So like this is the first time he says Avengers Assemble, and I didn't know that, but I was still like, oh,
Yeah,
oh yes, baby, let's
I'm having
go.
chills just thinking about it, and I love the delivery where it goes Avengers, and then he like whispers goes assemble, and I like that so
And
much.
then
Yeah, I
someone at the back's like, what? Yeah.
yeah, it's like say that again, Avengers one. Yeah, so they're just begging for like someone to edit that in. Yeah, and then there's a big battle where everyone flies against each other, and to me it was a particular thrill to see Pepper, in the rescue armor because like I thought I wasn't sure that we would see her in the rescue armor at the end because when they teased it with Morgan holding the or Morgana, I forgot what they called her, the kid holding the mom's helmet. I was like, okay, that's like a little tease of rescue. But then I remembered that Pepper, like Gwyneth Paltrow posted a selfie of herself wearing the rescue armor, so I knew at some
Oh,
point she
yeah.
has to appear. And before this movie, I always thought that she would be the one to go to space to help bring Tony back. But then after Captain Marvel, it was
Oh.
like it's probably Captain Marvel. So Rescue still needs to show up, and then Rescue flew in, and I was so happy. Like they had a back-to-back moment with Rescue back-to-back with Iron Man. Oh,
Yes.
that made
That was
me
so
so
amazing.
happy. Yeah, I like this is it's so great like that Pepper Potts came all the way from his personal assistant who is like chasing random girls out of his bedroom to this, and I like this so much.
And Wiki doesn't have all the details on the fight, so I guess you have to go off by memory. I really love how Scarlet Witch was just wrecking shop in this.
Oh yeah.
Like she was so angry
Yeah.
and
You
amazing.
took everything from me. Ah, very good, very good. Yeah, and it's cool because like each faction had a kind of identifying thing, like all of the sorcerers had their little shield coming up over them, and you could kind of see that they all looked different, but the Outriders all look the same, and I do like that. That's what the MCU is now. Like it's diversity not just for diversity's sake, but because it just is more interesting. It's more interesting to see different people of different abilities and different skill sets kind of like work together. And this is a thing that can only happen in a 20th movie. Like this big damn heroes moment of everybody teaming up and across the franchise, like the Earth corner and the Mystic corner and the Cosmic corner, like that can only happen in a movie like Endgame after that number of movies have preceded it.
Yeah. All right, then Captain Marvel comes back, and I love. the moment Captain Marvel comes back, I was like, okay, we're gonna win this thing. It's okay, guys, we're good. So like the relief of seeing her, it's just
Yeah,
unexplainable.
Carol's
I
here.
loved it. She
Carol's here.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, everyone's good, and she just goes through the ship again, and that's amazing.
Ah,
I and I like how everyone was trying to play the gauntlet. They were all trying to give the gauntlet away from
yeah, hot
Thanos, which
potato
was
with the
kind of cool. But
gauntlet
too
was
bad they
very
only
fun.
went through like, yeah, too bad they only went through like three people.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
liked Spider-Man holding it, and then
Poor Spider
yeah,
Man.
as he's holding it, like he's meeting so many random people he doesn't know who they are, and like he's on horseback on the back of like Valkyrie's winged horse, and he's going, I don't know
Yeah,
who you are, and that was so much fun. I also like going back to the Captain Marvel fight with Thanos. I love the headbutt. He headbutts her and she
yeah,
doesn't flinch, and that
and it's like that empty metal
right,
sound.
that whole like clanging noise from his helmet, and that was so great because yeah, the thing is like at the end of Captain Marvel of her movie, she is very highly powered. So you're thinking like they're gonna have to nerf her somehow or depower her somehow. But I'm very glad that they did not do that in the end. That it's like her having that amount of power is something that so many people are upset about, and I like that the movie used it smartly. There wasn't a lot of Captain Marvel as I think a way to remind us that hey, this is happening on many other planets as well, and also as a way of making it focus on the original six.
Yeah,
So I like that they kind of saved Captain Marvel for the big old bit, because people were thinking that this movie would be Captain Marvel 1.5, and it was not, and I did want to see more of her, but in a way I'm glad that it wasn't, and I think it made sense that it wasn't, and that made it all the more satisfying and all the more thrilling to see her enter the final fight because she's been missing from the
yeah.
movie for that long.
And also, I think they do have a Superman problem with her. So, I mean, it kind of sucks because I wish there was more of her in this, but I like the way they utilize her. I think they underutilized her, to be honest, but the way they utilize her is still fun, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't like the pandering moment of all the women heroes
Oh,
coming
I
together,
did
but
I did like that. Like that is a pandering moment, but I like that so much. That was an A force, kind of moment. Because yeah, I'm
yeah,
thinking like, all right, this is very very silly on paper. Like why do all of them need to pose together as women? But it's the image of it is cool, and I think like there are a lot of teams where it's totally fine that there aren't any women in it, but suddenly there's a team that's all women and everyone goes, huh? Where are the men? And I think like it's I hope that one
but
day we won't have to question that. But yeah,
no, but I think it's the way they did that was odd.
oh
It's
okay,
like,
yeah.
oh, okay, this guy needs help. So here are all the women in our
Yeah,
MCU. And it's
women
like, oh, okay.
assemble, right? Yeah, and
Like, yeah, you don't have to do that. Like, just you don't have to, you know, point and be like, these are
look,
women.
women,
These are women in
look,
MCU.
women.
Look at
Yeah,
us.
that was
Yeah, it's just so pandering, and I dislike it so much. But it is cool to see that many women. It's just I wish, because can you imagine how embarrassing it's like your dad being so proud of you or something, and then they keep pointing out that you achieved this thing. And you're like, Dad, stop! I don't want. It's
yeah, I
yeah. I
like
don't. I
I
feel
like the way
that's the
you put
way.
it. I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, I mean, just from the point of view of like, it's always hardest to find the female characters in action figure lines because they're kind of short packed, and you don't get the women you don't find those figures as easily as you find the figures of the male characters. Black Widow is very hard to find, etc., etc. And then you get a moment like that, and that's kind of like, it's at this point, it's stupid, but hopefully we get to a point where people figure out how to do this and it's not stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. Because like,
I hope so
yeah, I
too.
was like, yeah, all right, fine. I
I
wonder what
think
all these characters have in common.
yeah,
Let me think about it.
they bumbled this as much as that first gay Marvel character
Oh, the first game
in
Marvel
the
character,
beginning.
Joe Russo.
Yeah. It's so dumb. But okay, then uh Okay, so Gamora, oh, new Gamora, sorry,
Old
old
Gamora,
Gamora
because
meets
New
Peter
Gamora very
Quill. Yeah.
dick.
Uh, and I did not like that at all. It's horrible, right? Like this is what I mean. They treat Peter so badly in this film. Why did because he he did change
Right,
in
yeah.
Guardians
Yeah.
2. So to see him just being a joke in this film is I really dislike how they treated his character.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, it's either him or the tree. But it's just like, come on. Peter he's immature, but he's not a terrible
He's
person.
not, yeah. And I think like I feel like a lot of this was them knowing that the people are only thinking about the one moment in Infinity War where he messes up
And
and comes in. And but there's a lot more to Peter than that.
yeah, and okay, I really wanna talk about the Peter thing later.
Okay,
So
yeah, we'll file that
well,
away.
I hope I remember
All
it.
right.
Um, then the fight ends with Tony sacrificing himself
Mm-hmm.
by snapping Thanos and his army away.
Yeah.
And everyone gathers around him. Doesn't say anything, but they all. I think Pepper Potts has like the saddest
Yeah.
goodbye, which is "We'll be
You can
okay.
rest
You
now.
can
Yeah.
rest
Oh
now."
my god. But seeing Tony with the gauntlet, with all the Infinity Stones going, I am Iron Man, is very cool. Is very, very cool. And it was like, yeah,
I
that's his
yeah,
blaze of
sorry.
glory, you know? That's his final
Yeah,
hurrah.
I have to admit, like I'm not a huge fan of Iron Man
Mm-hmm.
or Tony Stark. So when he died or when he was dying, I was like, this is sad.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, like the only reason why I'm sad is because he has a daughter.
Yeah,
But
he has a daughter and he has Pepper as well, you
yeah, but I wasn't too upset by his death. I guess like whatever. You know, I'm glad Disney doesn't have to pay him that much anymore, so they get to save even more money. But
know. Yeah, I mean,
uh,
it's kind of crazy to think like he started out in Iron Man 1, his salary was something like $500,000, or something that is like very, very low in comparison to what he went on to make.
uh, all right.
Yeah,
So
pause.
after that,
Okay, so Iron Man's death, right? And I think that there hasn't really been a character arc like Tony's in any comic book movie universe. Like the journey that he's been on, all the things that he's gone through, the personal growth and the sacrifice, the things that he's grappled with. Like Iron Man is not my favorite character in the MCU, but I think that a lot of this works because of Robert Downey Jr. and because of Jon Favreau. And without Iron Man 1, none of this would have worked. So like him being the foundation stone on which everything is built upon, and finally him like bowing out in this way, I think there's kind of a poetry to it. I think that Tony has redeemed himself enough to not have to die a heroic death, but he did, and it was okay. You know, it like I was surprised that they killed him and not Cap, honestly, because I thought Cap would have the heroic sacrifice, but they found a way to see Cap out of the franchise as well, which we'll get to eventually. And then walking out of the theater at the end, I was like, yeah, I like what happened with Tony and what he left behind, and that
I
he was the one who was very hesitant to do the plan, and if they didn't do the whole thing, if they didn't have the quantum travel and everything, he would still be alive.
I think Tony was the right one to die because he kind of killed a lot of people through his work before Iron Man. So I thought his death was fine. I liked that his character arc as a very selfish man who only cared about making money to this guy who's sacrificing his life for the entire world.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a really cool arc that took about 5 6 movies, I
Yeah, that's the
guess.
amount of growth that he's had, and I think like that also manifested in the way we see him as a parent and how good
Yeah.
he is as a dad to Morgan. And it's like the man in Iron Man 1 could not be a father at all,
Yeah.
and he would not respect Pepper enough, and there wouldn't be enough of that humanity there because it wasn't about that for him. It was about fame and glory and making money, and then gradually he realized his purpose. And I like a lot of the issues that they explored that stem from his relationship with his father, and that his father did appear in this movie. and it was he died having that closure of having talked to his father one last time.
Yeah. Uh. Okay.
Okay,
So
now we are in
is
the
that
Return of the King multiple endings.
not as
Yeah,
bad?
it's
Not
only
as bad.
four. There are only four endings in Endgame.
Following a funeral for Stark, Thor appoints Valkyrie as the king of New
Okay,
Asgard and
pause.
joins the Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, this
Funeral.
I want to
Yeah,
talk about it.
funeral.
No, no, I want to talk about Guardians.
No, no,
They
funeral first.
No, 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 no. We are going to talk about the Guardians. I am so annoyed because Peter just lost Gamora. He loves Gamora. Okay, we all know that. He just doesn't know how to express it, and he's immature as shit. So I was so annoyed that they didn't have a moment for him to grieve over the loss of Gamora
Right,
because they
yeah.
did that for Black Widow.
Hmm.
And it could have been such an amazing moment with him and Nebula. Just like he asked, like he could have asked Nebula, last 5 years, how do you ever get over her?
Right,
Or
yeah, yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. Like I hated how they didn't have a moment because they both love Gamora so much, and like there's so much regret in how they treated her as well. So I'm so annoyed. Maybe next time, like in Guardians, as Guardians of the Galaxy or something.
Yeah.
But I just I can't. The way they treated Peter in this just makes me so annoyed because I understand it was his fault in Infinity War. I understand that he's immature, he's kind of dumb, but we are all as flawed as he is.
Right,
But
yeah. I get what you mean, and I think like that's where the movie, like, it does treat Peter as a joke more than I wish that it would. I still think like it's affectionate in terms of it being affectionate of the Guardians, but yeah, I think that's a big thing that's missing there. Like, there's a personal stake for everybody. I mean, even Rocket has like a moment to be sad with Nebula, and Peter Quill didn't get that. And I think like that moment of all like the fake endings, I didn't like the Thor going on the ship and moment, because that I felt should have been a moment for the Guardians, and Thor can stay out of it.
yeah,
Because it's like, oh no, is Thor gonna be part of the team for Guardian 3? Then that becomes a
I
Thor
I
movie.
don't
Then it doesn't become a Guardians movie anymore.
I don't mind that Thor and the Guardians are gonna be in a movie together. I think it's just I really wish they gave the Guardians their moment.
Right, yeah.
Because he could have just been outside of the ship the entire time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And the Guardians are just talking about what about Gamora?
Yeah, yeah.
Or grieving about what's happening, and then you see Rocket reuniting with Groot and their interaction. And I just hated how they handled all the Guardians except Nebula in this. It's because maybe I know, you know what, no, I know I'm super biased because I love the Guardians of the Galaxy films,
Right, yeah,
and
and
I was
and
so happy they got James Gunn back as
yeah,
the director of
for
Guardians of the Galaxy
I'm
3.
so happy that happened. Like, that is not something I really saw coming. So okay, this is what I think they could have done instead. What I would like to have, as something that, okay, maybe plants the seeds of Guardians 3, I would have liked for Nebula to have shown Star-Lord the tape of her on the ship with other Nebula and with Gamora, and then Star-Lord watches that tape. And I think like that would have helped him understand that, okay, this is Gamora at that point.
Ugh, this sucks. Okay, but all right, let's talk about the funeral. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, the funeral, like, okay, I really love the proof that Tony Stark has a heart thing. That always makes me happy. Uh, and yeah, it was a nice moment to sort of see like the whole team and all the little factions, but they definitely want all the same place at the same time. There were some people that were standing on green screen who were comped in later. But they did that very well. Like, it was a big grand thing with a big grand like Alan Silvestri dirge, and I like that they slotted Harley in there, and I think that's the one moment everyone is like, who is that? Who is that? Who is that? And yeah, that's the kid that Tony met in Rose Hill, Tennessee in Iron Man 3. And now he's grown up, and I think like I hope that that's not just an Easter egg. I hope there's stuff to do with Harley later. And I hope and I'm glad that they had that moment with Happy and Morgan, and
Yep.
Happy saying his line about the cheeseburgers because like without John Favreau, none of this happens. So yeah, I'm glad that he stuck through that. But okay, it would have maybe killed the somberness of the moment, but I wanted Nick Fury to come out holding Groot for the funeral. No, not Groot, Goose, holding Goose for the funeral.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Goose.
that it's just him and the cat, and then there's everybody at the funeral. But yeah, like it's interesting, right? Because the big fight in at the end against Thanos, that's a group shot, and the funeral is also a group shot. So those are sort of both ways of looking at the MCU. That these are characters who have triumph and who also experience loss. And I like that. I like that there were two modes of seeing everybody in one place at once, where one is celebratory and another one is mournful, but both are equally kind of cathartic.
I also didn't realize that there was this shot of a boy in the funeral,
Right? Yeah,
and apparently it's a kid from Iron Man
that's
3.
Harley. Yeah,
So it's kind
Harley
of
Keener.
sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of sweet for them to get him back, even though most people probably don't recognize him.
yeah. Like I when I saw him, I was like, "Is that the kid from Iron Man 3?" And then during the end credits, it says Harley. So okay, that's the kid from Iron. But that was the question I got asked the most about Endgame. It's like, who's the kid? Who's the kid? Who's the kid? And I like that. I like that that was someone who was important to Tony in the overall scheme of things. Because I mean, I do love that a lot in Iron Man 3. I love that a big part of it was kind of him connecting with a stranger and being out of the suit, being like, what happens
Yeah.
to Tony when you take the suit away, and that his interaction with this kid was not just a one-off thing. It meant enough that he came back for the funeral, and I like that because I think what this movie did is it had a lot of surprise. Oh, you thought they were gone forever, but here they are for a little bit. Like I was super thrilled to see Robert Redford in the little bit that he had. Rene Russo, like Frigga, that was really overwhelming to see Thor meet his mom again. And surprise Tilda Swinton, as much as I haven't entirely gotten over the whitewashing thing, was also cool. But yeah, then the last one they give you is the kid.
And here comes my favorite part. Rogers returns the Infinity Stones and Mjolnir to their original place in time.
Hmm.
He remains in the past to marry Peggy Carter and live out the rest of his life. In the present, an elderly Rogers passes on his shield to Sam Wilson. I want to talk about this.
Okay. Yeah.
I was fine up to the very end when they play the old timey music.
When they played, it's been a long, long time. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see Peggy dancing with Captain America or Steve, and I just cried because I have been waiting. Like I didn't know that was possible that they could get together at the end
Yeah. Yeah.
because I think I've said this before, but they are my favorite couple in the MCU, and like after this I think that they have found the greatest love story of any cinema or any movie ever, because you waited so long and you never knew that this was going to be a possibility, but it happened, and we just had to be so patient about it. But he went back in time and he married Peggy and he came back, and then you saw the ring. Oh, sorry, you saw the ring first before you knew what happened. And that
Yeah.
was the last shot of the film. Them dancing together.
Yes. In the 1950s, like
And
after the war. Yeah.
I just I could not take it. It was too much for me. It was so well done, and he deserves it. I sorry, I'm losing my ability to speak. He deserves it.
Yeah.
He deserves it so much. Out of every character, he deserved that happy ending. And it's so nice to know that he he's going to be fine. Like that Steve is always going to be fine because it's a time loop
Yeah.
until the older Steve dies.
Yeah.
But you know that okay, this Steve, when he got iced, he came out, he went to the Battle of New York and whatever he faced loss, then he went back in time and he married the love of his life.
Yeah.
And he lived out the rest of his days happy enough, I am assuming. So I'm so happy that this is the ending to Captain Steve Rogers Captain America. That he had the happy ending he so deserved because he's such a nice guy. And he did so much for that country and so much for the world. And I love the character arc that they gave him, and I'm so grateful to be on Team Captain America because this is our ending. He lived a happy life and he's awesome, and I'm so happy. A perfect send off for that character.
Yeah, like wow. When they did this, it was like it just felt so perfect. It felt like we have been waiting a very, very long time. And I knew that somehow or other, the dance with Peggy was going to be an emotional button they were going to push. And for them to have that as the final shot of the movie was genius. So I was sent this think piece. I think it was on GameStop or GameSpot or something by a friend, which basically said that this is an awful ending, that this betrays everything that Captain America is about. Like it made me kind of annoyed to read that because it was like, oh, this is it. These are the hot takes, you know. And yeah, I think like the mechanics of the time travel in this movie are confusing, and seeing old Cap there meant that there were two Caps at one point, and maybe there were two Peggies, you know, and then that opens its own set of possibilities. But I feel like in the moment we are supposed to understand that you know like I think one of the arguments is that it was the easy way out. I don't think it was the easy way out at all. I think he went through everything he went through and then he got a second chance, and he chose to do that at the second chance, and I like that very
Yeah.
much. And yeah, once you see him from the other side of the glass with Peggy, there's a feeling that they have to resolve that somehow because they didn't get to talk, but Tony got to talk to his dad, got to talk to Howard Stark. So I was just waiting and waiting and waiting for when Peggy would come back in some form or another. And then they did that.
And
Yeah.
I see a lot of people complaining how Captain America, knew all these events were gonna happen, and he didn't do anything to stop
Yeah,
them
yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
that's
But
the complaint in that thing piece.
I'm also thinking, but it's like shaming someone from the army for retiring and going back to his family.
Yeah. And I think like they've all that's the version of things that happen. And that's the version in which Captain America did everything that Captain America would do. So Captain America did do something. Just not that Captain America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? But at the same, okay, because to me, the way I read it, it's honestly a linear timeline. He just went back to when one of the to one when Steve Rogers was iced.
Right.
So he went back at a time when there were two Captain Americas.
Yes. Yeah.
Him, who went after Peggy, and then another Steve Rogers that was
And then who
iced.
came back in 2011. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. And that's
So
fine.
that's how I
Yeah,
view it.
I think that's
Yeah,
how it
like
worked as well. And
just
I don't think that
it's
goes
like
against anything.
I mean, and at the same time, just give him a
Yeah,
break,
yeah.
man. Just give him a break. He deserves the happy ending he got.
Like that one screenshot which everyone uses of this movie of, you know, Cap during the battle, and he's gritting his teeth, his face is entirely grimy. And it's like, yeah, this is what it's been like, you know. He's gone through this so many different times. And that was the last time he went through it. And I was very, very happy
Yeah.
that after that, you know, he did get his happy ending. And as he gets his happy ending, Tony has the line in the tape that he recorded for Pepper about how, you know, we wish everything would have a happy ending, but part of the journey is the end. And then they played that over like the celebration in Wakanda, over everybody celebrating. It's like, I hope when you're looking at this tape, you're looking back at it in celebration. And I like that very much. I like that Tony had his triumphant sacrifice, Cap had his happy ending, and those are and then Thor goes in the ship with the Guardians. So that's the
Yeah.
Trinity taken care of, so that our new Trinity can be Captain Marvel, Black Panther, and Doctor Strange.
I don't like that. But
I think that's the
okay.
plan. Yeah, I think those are the anchors of the MC going forward. And you know, Spider Man will swing around the background or something.
Yeah.
But
I'm really looking forward to Homecoming.
Far From Home. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
sorry.
confusing,
Far
right?
From
I
Home.
called it
Yes.
Homecoming a lot as well. Yeah, with Jake Gyllenhaal as a man who wears a fishbowl on his head. The role of a lifetime. Yeah, so
So
that's the
I
last
think,
ending of the four
yeah.
endings.
Overall, I think I watched this film and I'm just so jealous that there are creative people like this in the world
Yeah.
that can handle a movie as big as
Yes, that
this.
Marcus and McFeely, did not die of a heart attack before they started writing the script. There's like Marcus and McFeely on the floor next to Joe and Anthony Russo on the floor, and everyone died. Because that's what would happen to me if someone were to say go, do this. Because that like the hopes and dreams of a billion people who follow these movies are kind of hanging in the balance. And that's
Yeah.
why I said I cannot imagine someone walking out this movie going, eh. Like I can imagine someone going out of this movie saying they hate it, as much as like that's difficult for me to imagine that at least that's possible. But I can't imagine someone having no reaction at all, like being completely indifferent to it. And I think that
I I I can't imagine someone looking at this movie and going, "This is." But I mean, how can you even find this movie? How can you think that this movie is
yeah,
bad and not? I can't believe someone actually made
yeah,
this.
that was my first reaction. My first reaction was I'm impressed. That I have a lot of respect. I mean, just as it was in Infinity War. After watching Infinity War, I was like, yeah, mad respect. Because the thing I kept on saying is I wanted to see the wall. I wanted to see the wall in Marcus and McFeely's office that's covered with index cards and covered with string. And it's like these are all the ideas, and this is where everyone's going at this point in time, and all of that. And like the planning process must have been insane. All I want to know what they planned that didn't make it in. And I think like this is so marvelously put together. It's just very smartly assembled in that. Sure, the mechanics of the
You used like two Avengers
I
puns
did,
right
yeah,
there,
completely
but okay.
subconsciously, right? Yeah, that this was just so well put together, something Mionia, that that it's like how. So that was my reaction was this is a feat and it needs to be acknowledged as such. It needs to be given the credit because now they're going to be people who will make it their business to find something wrong with it and hang on to that. And it's like, I'm special because I didn't like Endgame. And I'm kind
Yeah.
of dreading that, honestly, because like I think this is something that we need to let people sit with this for a while. And yeah, eventually when people are having spoilerific discussions out in the open, there will be a lot more things that will come out about this movie that don't necessarily make sense or don't necessarily track. But I think that they did as good as a job they could, given the resources they had, given what they had to build upon, and especially in terms of bringing the story to an end for Iron Man and for Cap, is very really beautiful. And it's a movie that has such humongous scope that doesn't lose track of its heart, and I like that for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that's the most amazing part of it. Like there is so much fan service but it never feels pandering. There is so much action but you always get the feel of it. Like you don't ever get lost in the action and you know why they're fighting. And it's so character focused, I feel.
Yeah, there's always in service of something, right? And then that's why I said like at the end of the day, I am so happy to see just two characters talking to each other, and that is happening in a $300 million uh, action blockbuster movie that is going to break box office records one way or another. But
Yeah.
it's important. The characters talking to each other are important, and the MCU has found a way of doing exposition without it feeling tedious. And especially all the stuff with the time travel in this movie, like they found a way to make explaining it kind of fun. They found a way to say, don't take it too seriously, come along with us. But at the same time, you take it seriously when it has to do with something that personally affects the characters. And that's a kind of balance which is very admirable and which is hard to do at a movie of this scale because it's so easy for things like this to be bloated. And in a way, I felt like Civil War was kind of bloated, but I didn't feel Infinity War was bloated.
I
I
agree.
didn't, right, yeah, and I didn't feel Endgame was bloated. And to those movies are objectively much bigger in scale than Civil War. So somewhere something went right, and I think like they used the part one, part two formula very, very smartly.
I must admit, like I not a huge fan of the MCU. Like I need to stop saying like I watch I've seen all their films. I don't remember half of them, to be honest. And I was hyped. Okay, I wasn't hyped. I was looking forward to Endgame more because of I didn't want to get spoiled, and also because I didn't want to get hyped to death and go in thinking that this is going to be the best film of all time. So I was blown away by how good and how cohesive this film is. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this film.
Yeah, and I think like
I am just in shock. I'm just in shock that they managed to pull this off. And I really want to see what's going, because this feels like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, where you can't believe there's been so many films
right, yeah.
and they still managed to end it on such a high.
Yeah, and I think like the end credits were very, very classy. They made on end titles with each of the signatures appearing because it was literally the Avengers signing off. That's what that was.
Yeah.
It was like, this is the big old love letter to the fans, and then at the bottom it's signed by Jeremy Renner, Mark Ruffalo, Scarlett Johansson, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Chris Hemsworth, right? And that was really, really neat. It was like, yeah, this is they weren't trying to make the main on end titles like a spectacular, clever kind of piece of animation. It was a clip show, and it was like at this point, yeah, you kind of earned the right for it to be a clip show. And I know this movie is 3 hours long. I know this movie doesn't have an end credit like a post credits tag, but if possible, I want people to stay. I want people to stay for the credits. I want people to stay for the credits to read the names. I want people to see the names of the comics creators. I want people to see the names of of the people at Legacy Effects who worked on it, the people at ILM who worked on it, and just the army of Roto people. And I want people to kind of like listen to the Silvestri score as well because the score for this movie is insane. And then towards the end of the end credits, you hear the instrumental for "It's Been a Long, Long Time," which reminds you that yeah,
Mm.
this is a bit more Cap's story than is Tony's because the emotional button that it ends on at the end of the movie and at the end of the end credits is Cap. But then the little bit over the Marvel logo at the end, you hear a clanging noise, and that clanging noise is Tony in the cave building Mark One. So they drew
Yeah.
it all the way back to the end as well. So I like that very much. Like it was always we're gonna remind you of why you fell in love with the characters. We're gonna remind you of where they began. And they did that a lot for Cap and for Iron Man, even with the very last bits of the credits.
Yep. Well said.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm really looking forward to the film that we're probably going to review not next week but in 2 weeks' time, and it's getting really good reviews. It's called Detective Pikachu, and I'm really looking forward to that. Yes, I'm so looking forward to Detective Pikachu. The story is going to be crap. I'm just gonna watch. I don't know when are you gonna watch Detective
I
Pikachu,
don't know.
Jet?
I don't know when I'm watching Detective Pikachu. Josh, the
Okay.
radio DJ, is in Japan. He interviewed Ryan Reynolds back to back with Ken Watanabe for Godzilla. So he went
Uh-huh.
from one monster movie to another.
Yeah.
And he also interviewed Rob Letterman for Detective Pikachu. So I can't wait to see how those interviews turn out because I helped him write some of those questions, and I will take all the credit I can take.
Okay. Cool. Did you give him like a little Pikachu figurine with a hat on
Oh
it?
no, I did not. Like what he did was he wore like Velcro and he said to Ryan
Ah.
Reynolds, if you feel like that was a good question, throw a Pokeball at me. So at the end he had
Oh,
like three
okay.
Pokeballs stuck to him.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's neat. And
Okay.
that's his third interview
Uh,
with Ryan Reynolds after the first two did.
yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. I hope you like it. See, I think Detective Pikachu will be fun for both of us because I've played the game and I know some things about Pokemon. You don't,
I
right?
don't, yeah, I
You
have
don't.
no emotional
Yeah, so
context for
this
Pokemon.
I'm so excited to see like to see what your reactions are from it
Yeah, I'm
because
excited
this
to see what
is
my reactions are too, because like it does look like fun, but I don't know what it is.
yeah. But the thing is, it's not even a regular Pokemon thing because the regular Pokemon thing is you battling monsters and then catching poor innocent creatures
Right,
from
it's
the
not the
wild
Ash and Brock and
and making
Misty
them your
story.
own
Yeah.
slave. But this is about a story about a kid looking for his dad, and he found his dad's Pikachu, who he can suddenly talk to. So I think it's a really fun premise. I didn't like the game, but I'm looking forward to this because it looks different enough. It looks like it has very good emotional beats, unlike the game itself. So I'm so stoked.
Yeah,
Like Hi, I'm so excited for
I
this
remember
film.
2, 3 years ago when we
Yeah,
were discussing the announcement of this movie, we were both saying that it was kind of a bold move, but probably a very smart one to go with a
yeah,
lesser known corner of the Pokemon mythos to make the live action debut for a Pokemon movie. Like there's a bit of a risk, but there's also more room to play with than if you were doing a straight up like there's a live action Ash and Misty and Brock and a live action Team Rocket, that
yeah.
kind of thing.
It would have been terrible too.
Yeah.
It really would have been terrible. I think that this is the best move they can make for a Pokemon film. Because it's the idea of Detective Pikachu that's fun, and then you can add in all the Pokemon inside, but you have a character that's not that well known as Ash or Red or any of the Pokemon trainers that you see in the
Right,
games.
yeah.
And the main character in Detective Pikachu, the main kid, is horrible and boring. And this kid that they have, the
Justice
Justice
Smith,
Smith
yeah.
character, he looks more fun.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's good.
We'll see what happens with that, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how Rob Letterman handles it because he does have a history with live action CGI movie.
Okay, so I don't know what we're discussing next week. Probably nothing because the cinema that I go to is only showing Avengers this week, and I doubt they're gonna change next week.
Right, yeah.
So
Next week is
I
May the
don't
4th,
know.
so I might be going around for that. Like there's an event at Cairn Hill Community Center, so that'll be fun. Go and say hi to all my Star
Okay.
Wars fan group friends.
Okay, so bye.
Oh, did we talk about the Rise of Skywalker trailer? We did,
Yeah,
right?
we
Yeah,
did
last week.
last
Okay,
week.
cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for someone to do the
Oh,
thumbnail.
yeah.
That would
All
be
right.
great.
Someone, hurry up with that. Thank you, someone. And thank you so much, Sherry. This was a lot of fun. I'm really glad like I finally got to talk about spoilers for this movie because I've just been holding that in all this time.
Yeah, I I'm still not over Captain America,
Yeah, this
but
this is gonna be
yeah.
one that like the second time I saw it, I cried so much more than the first time I saw it, and I think I will want to watch it a third time, at least one more time. All right, so do I. Bye bye.